What's up everybody, I'm ZWade, the ZWade and ZWade Photo, and after a long wait we finally get to pair the Nikon Zfc with the 28mm f2.8 SE that was included in the kit. Make sure you go to ZWadePhoto.com, you can check out my personal art portfolio, and if you want, swing by the print shop and pick you up a print. Now let's get into it. In this video we're going to be looking at, for the most part, the raw image followed by a color image followed by a black and white. We're also spending the first part of this video in manual focus. Let's check out our first shot. You might have noticed a profile correction. I find that this particular lens definitely needs that profile correction in Lightroom. On another note, this camera is really easy to carry around with this lightweight lens, especially with the L-shape accessory. I'm particularly impressed with the black and white rendering. It has nice enough micro contrast, although not nearly on par with some of the more expensive lenses, which is to be expected for, $300. Since the Nikon Zfc doesn't have in-body image stabilization, I find myself having to go at a higher ISO in order to achieve the correct shutter speed, especially in this freezing cold where I'm shivering, but it does give you the opportunity to twist some of them knobs, and it kind of brings me back to shooting film cameras. At least for me, shooting film is a hell of a good time. I like the process. I just got tired of waiting on the film, and that's why I don't really shoot it anymore. Granted, shooting the ZFC is not exactly like shooting a film camera, but there's just enough of a hint of the mechanical nature of shooting film cameras that it just makes it a little bit more fun than being able to control everything with one hand like on the Z6 II. Like pretty much all Nikkor Z lenses, I find the 28mm f2.8 SE to be really sharp. You see all the bags of trash on the ground? You filthy fucking animals. We're gonna use the sharpness of this lens after I get my things dialed in, thought somebody was creeping up on me, and we're gonna turn the trash into a piece of art, rivaling the Sistine Chapel. If that doesn't make me famous, I don't know what will. Verify someone wasn't sneaking up on me, and like a good Samaritan, I leave the trash alone and I move to my next shot. As I mentioned earlier, this lens is pretty good for black and white, it seems, but I'm really more impressed with the color, because the color is just a hair more saturated than what I would call real color. And it's kind of nice, especially since this is like a fun lens. Look at me shivering, just freezing to death out here for your guys' entertainment. What makes this combo a great, just out on the town fun setup is it's not a very expensive setup relative to everything else that I own. This is not worth my life if somebody wants to rob me. Any other combo that I could go out with? Oh yeah, I'll fight you to the death. Now let's look at this sweet brick doorway. Epic nothing shot. Moving on, I'm about to go out into the street without the protection of the alleys to keep me out of the wind. And so I actually don't shoot very much photography up here. I kind of just walk the street for a while. But I find a plant up here that I'm quite interested in. But I caught myself on camera admiring how cool this camera does look. It feels incredibly cheaply made, but you know what? It looks cool, and so far it's a lot of fun to shoot. And it actually has great image quality. There's that bush I was talking about, and as I approach it, I just gotta mention, thank God this was such a lightweight rig that I was working with on this particular day, because my joints and my knuckles, oh man, that wind was cutting to the bone. It would have been so miserable to have been out there with numb hands trying to carry around a heavy lens and camera rig. You will see me making adjustments, trying to compensate for the shake and the wind, and I really didn't want to push my ISO as high as I had to, but it's a good opportunity to see how this camera handles noise. And it actually does a lot better than I probably would have assumed, but the black and white version of this was so bad that I'm not even sharing it. I think that's plenty of manual focus fun for the day. We're going to go to a different part of downtown, closer to where I parked my truck, so we can quickly play with some auto area AF to finish up the video and get the fuck out of the cold. I'm in auto area AF and the anticipation grows to finish up this test to get out of the cold. The camera and the lens do not care about the cold, they're doing perfectly fine, and the 28mm f2.8 SE is nice and zippy on the autofocus. As I move to frame my next subject, I want to say the Nikon Zfc Auto Area AF does a good job of selecting something that would be a good subject. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the decorative swing set frame. Miraculous. These old wooden flower pots are as good a shot as any, I suppose, and the auto area again does a good job of grabbing the one that's closest to the lens, which is the one up front. I set up my shot, make a few quick adjustments, and there we have it. These look particularly good in black and white, I think. Now at this point my hands are really hurting from the cold. It's just zipping down this alleyway and, I mean, just cutting me to my soul. But I want to show you, watch how my grip changes to compensate for the fact that I'm shaking and freezing. Watch how tight my grip becomes. My left hand will engulf my right hand and the lens will sit in the web between my thumb and index finger, and I'll pull it real close to my body. Notice all these images have vignetting. Well, that's because I added it, because I like vignetting. But keep in mind, this lens does have vignetting naturally. By the way, listen to this wind. Yeah, that's what I'm dealing with right now, but at this very moment, I'm thankful for the cold because I'm taking a picture of the playground, and if it wasn't cold, then there'd be people here with their children, and, you know, this would be a crime. Something interesting happened here because I've never seen a day that was so lacking in character and color that you naturally get a black Paris without doing any color adjustment. And on the black and white, I kind of decided to go with a softer look. Looks pretty cool. With my trusty ZFC and 28mm in hand, I spot my next masterpiece. It's a street photography equivalent of a scarf and beret wearing millennial taking pictures of cappuccino foam art. The ZFC even looks like the only camera that they'd be willing to use. It's so retro. As I'm thinking, thank God it's time to get out of the cold, I see a cool little stump thing, and I'm like, well, I have to get that because I gotta see if we can get some good detail, and, you know, bark has a tendency to look great in black and white, so. And for good measure, how about some vertical? Like I said, bark in black and white looks really good, but with this lens, so does the color. I say to myself, damn it, it's cold. Last one, and I made it this time. We haven't had a lot of opportunity to shoot color, and, you know, yellow is better than nothing.